I talk a lot about recovery in these videos, but the primary component of recovery is sleep. So let's talk about sleep. Sleep is one of those things like nutrition where it's not necessarily just a matter of quantity, like get 8 hours, check the box, but quality is also very important. This video by no means is to get into the intricacies of like deep sleep and REM sleep and these kinds of things. It's more just a general discussion on things we can do to improve our sleep quality so that we get more restfulness, more recovery per unit time of sleep. So, the big levers are obviously, control stimulant intake, amount, and then how proximal that intake is to your time of sleep. And there's no hard numbers on this, folks. It's a very nuanced thing. I mean, I'm a massive stimulant junkie, so I can consume a ton of caffeine and go right to sleep. Whereas there are other individuals that have too much caffeine early in the morning and they have trouble sleeping later at night. Most of you that frequently consume coffee, pre-workout, whatever the case may be, you kind of know your tolerance levels, so that is an individual nuance to determine for yourself. Another thing, though, that is of cultural significance that often sandbags our sleep quality is screen time. Now, I'm not necessarily going to go down the whole blue light rabbit hole. I'm not a subject matter expert on that. But what I will say, though, is that primetime television, internet browsing, these kinds of things immediately before bed are oftentimes antithetical to what we should be doing before bed, which is trying to reduce our overall state of anxiety, reduce our kind of sympathetic drive, and get into more of a parasympathetic rest and recovery type of mode systemically, which dinner generally contributes to, but depending on the variety of inputs that we see, hear, feel, so on and so forth, we may still be trying to go to sleep when we aren't anywhere near a state of restfulness. And that also can have a lot to do with just the content of the material we're consuming with our digital media. There's a big difference for me between, say, doing something work-related right before bed versus listening to like a David Attenborough documentary on guinea pigs or something. Or even something that I love, like strength and conditioning. I don't generally consume this kind of content that I'm generating right now before I go to sleep. Because since I love it so much, it puts me in a sympathetic drive in a good way, but at a bad time. I don't want to go to sleep hyped up. I want to go to sleep kind of, chilled out and contemplative, not ready to crush a conditioning or a weight training session. So all that to say, if you're having issues with your sleep quality, just take stock of your habits prior to bedtime. And again, like the stimulant consumption thing, these are going to be very individualized, very nuanced. This video is just to provide you with things to think about that you might be able to apply to your own individual situation. And then, of course, the last big lever is the environment. We can kind of split that up into three things: the surface you sleep on, the temperature of the environment you sleep in, and then the amount of ambient. We can start with noise, but also things like light and other sensory inputs outside of just the digital ones: television, computer, phone, so on and so forth. How cool do you like it? How firm does the surface need to be? Are you a soft bed person, or do you need to literally sleep on a board? Have you spent so much time in the field that it doesn't matter and you can fall asleep on anything? Just to get on paper as a hand-wavy statement, a general good rule of thumb, like a good place to start, is a pretty firm bed, a generally cool environment, and dark. Some people do blackout shades, some people do like the eye cover things, but generally speaking, darkness, a cool room, and a firm surface are generally a good place to start for most people. And then the last thing I want to mention, and again, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but it does significantly intersect with my scope of practice, both as a strength coach and as a safety professional. Passing out from overconsumption of alcohol is not the same thing as a good night's sleep. You will recover to some extent, but only because you're not doing anything. It's actually more akin to being knocked unconscious than actually drifting asleep of your own volition. So if you're serious about your training, it behooves you to manage your alcohol consumption for that reason alone. Thanks for watching.